بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
Assalamu alaikum. It is Wednesday, the 14th of September 2022, and in our series Reflections on the Holy Quran, this is broadcast number 361. And recently we have been looking at the significance and meanings of the words of Al-Baqarah, verse 104. And this is our ninth broadcast in discussing the words of this verse of the Holy Quran. These broadcasts are brought to you by Ahmadiyya School of Education, Ilijan, which is a department of the Lahore Ahmadiyya movement. The Ahmadiyya movement was created by Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib Rahmatullah Alayh, who taught us that although others say that after the Holy Prophet Muhammad, the Prophet can come, this is not correct. The Holy Prophet Muhammad was the last Prophet, and now after him, no one will come. And he also taught that the Holy Prophet, although people are very quick to judge each other and call each other kafirs, the Holy Prophet had said that if one reciter of the kalima says to another reciter of the kalima that you are a kafir, then it is the person saying it who is the heretic. And Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad taught that although other people say that amongst the sources of Islam, the first and the topmost is the hadith, he said this cannot be correct because the Holy Quran was written at the Holy Prophet's time, and the hadith was written a long time after the Holy Prophet Muhammad. So our first source of guidance and knowledge must be the Holy Quran, and then the Sunnah, or the actions of the Holy Prophet, and then hadith. But then you need to investigate a hadith very carefully. And he also taught I say that Ayah Rajam and Surah Balayat are missing from the Holy Quran. No prophetic revelation is missing from the Holy Quran, and no verse of the Holy Quran is abrogated. And he taught that jihad is the fundamental duty of a Muslim, but jihad is defined by the Holy Prophet Muhammad, who said that when returning from a battle, he said that Muslims are returning from the minor to the major jihad, which is jihad bin nafs, a jihad against your own souls. And Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's claim was that in accordance with the hadith, he was a mujaddid, a reformer. In a chain, many had come before him. But his distinction was that he said the Messiah and the Mahdi spoken of in the hadith weren't names of personalities, but titles for a mujaddid. And he was the person to whom these titles applied. Although he said that that doesn't mean that at other times, other messiahs and mujaddids will not appear. So let's turn to the verse of the Holy Quran. أعوذ بالله الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقولوا راعنا وقولوا انظرنا واسمعوا وَلِلْكَافِرِينَ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. O you who believe, say not Ra'ina, say Unzurna, and listen. And for the disbelievers, there is a painful chastisement. Yesterday we looked at the word Azab, and today we look at the last word of this verse, which is Alim. So let's have that. Its root, my cursor has disappeared. Its root is Hamza, Lam, Mim. Now I want to remind you that in Urdu we say Alif. But in Arabic it's called Hamza, Hamza, Lam, Mim. And in Urdu, it makes word alam, which means pain. And you have word almiya, which means tragic, and so on. So this root appears in the Holy Quran 75 times in two forms. 72 times it appears as Alim, and 3 times as Ya'lamu. And Alimun means pain, painful, etc. Like this verse that I was just reciting. Painful chastisement. And Al-Alamu, severe pain. And as the Holy Quran says, فَإِنَّهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ كَمَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And the severe pain that you suffer from, they too suffer from severe pain in the same way. And again in chapter 2, verse 10, we have وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. Severe chastisement. Or alam ya'tikum. This is a question, but anyway. So this means pain, but azabun alim, severe pain. And people always think of it as something that will happen in the hereafter. But when you violate God's laws, the punishment starts in this life. You see, the Quran gives you rules of living life which are dictated by God. And God says, if you live this life according to those rules, then this hereafter, they're both going to be good. And if you don't live your life according to these rules, then what will happen is that you will receive punishment, severe punishment, and the hereafter. Yesterday, this azab is always taken as a punishment for things you've done. But I think it can also be taken to mean treatment. Because you do wrong things, you violate God's laws, they impact upon your soul and upon your spirit. And the more you break those laws, the greater the impact. Let's take an example. You get a small, you cut your foot. And all you have to do is just put some disinfectant on it and put some plaster on it and give it a week or a few days, and it'll be okay. It'll be a little painful, but it'll be okay. What's that pain? That pain is the result of you being careless and hurting yourself. But because you acted to deal with that situation, although you suffered a little pain, you're going to recover. It's going to heal. But if you let it fester so that your foot becomes perhaps infected and there is pus in it, and then go to the doctor. Now the doctor will probably have to cut the area which is infected, drain out the pus, disinfect it, and maybe even put some stitches in, and then put a bandage on top. Now, because you didn't learn your lesson and you didn't treat the big, and its treatment was more painful. If you still leave it and your foot becomes very bad, then you go to the doctor. It may be the doctor says, well, it's too late to save your foot now. I have to operate. I have to put you under general anesthetic, and I have to cut your foot off. Now, can you see that the consequences of you not dealing with the first sign of a problem is that the treatment, you can call it punishment for your action. It is punishment. When you got a little cut, you could have dealt with that. Just use some Dettol and put some plaster over it. And that would have been it. It would have stung a bit, but then gradually it would have healed. But you let that fester and become worse. And the more you ignored it and left it, and the worse it becomes, more severe the treatment. You can say more severe the punishment. It is a punishment that you're receiving for your actions. What was your action? Ignoring what needed your attention. And the same applies to your soul. Many of the things that we do may not seem harmful in this world, but certainly they're harmful to our soul for the hereafter. But even in this world, supposing you're the envious type, the jealous type, and your neighbor gets another television, and you think, oh, how come my neighbor's got the latest model of whatever television it is? How come I haven't got that? Now, that jealousy, you're burning in that jealousy. That is a punishment for you being the jealous type, the envious type. You must have everything that someone else has, whether you have means or not. But you see, unless you contain this, it can lead to worse things. So you think, oh, okay, what I'll do is I'll do a bit of gambling, not much. I'll just put a little bit of money. I go clickety clack on my laptop, and I get to some website which allows gambling, or go to a channel on television where gambling is allowed. I'm not going to gamble much. I'm just going to do a little bit, enough for me to have money to buy a better model of television that my neighbor has got, and then I'll call him in and I'll show him, I've got a better model of television. Can you see what's happening? That sin of jealousy is now creating worse and worse consequences. If you go through with your idea and you bet your money, you might lose. And then, if you were going to put £10 on something, whatever it is, I don't know, and win whatever, £2,000, enough to buy that television, now you lose that £10. So what do? You say, well, I've lost £10, so I've got to get that back. Plus, I need £2,000 to buy that television. So maybe I shouldn't have bet £10. Perhaps I should have bet £30, so that I win enough to get the stake back, as it's called, plus enough money for the television. And so it goes on. This punishment, this burning in the hell of jealousy. And the punishment has started. It started in this world. It started physically. I used to give some time to an organization called the Citizens Advice Bureau. And a gentleman came, and he was a Muslim, and he was very embarrassed to see me and so on. But I said, well, I'm here to give you legal advice and help you with your problem. I'm not God who's going to judge you and decide. So he told me that his friend had a system. And his friend said, if you use this system to gamble in what are they called? Casino, you can never lose. Well, one thing is, if people could develop systems by which they never lost, why would there be so many casinos in the world? Why? There are so many casinos in the world because that's the best money-making business for the investors. As they say, the house never loses. that why didn't your friend use his own money? Why did he use your money? And when you ran out, then you started using your credit card, and now you maxed out 5 credit cards. Imagine demand from gas or electricity or something. He was terrified of answering the telephone. It may be one of these organizations ringing him to tell him because he hasn't paid his bill. They're coming round to disconnect his whatever electricity or gas or whatever you have. He was afraid of answering the door if the doorbell rang. Why? Because it might be bailiffs outside standing there with a court order saying this man hasn't paid his installments on his car for so many months, go and repossess the car. He couldn't sleep, etc. It's a long list. I sorted the problem out for him and so on. But the point is this. Can you imagine the hell he was going through? Azaban Ali, severe punishment. But punishment starts in this world. God doesn't wait until the hereafter. And this is why I sometimes get annoyed when, you have these question answers printed in Urdu newspapers and so on, where someone writes in with a problem. Like a wife writes in and says, my husband mistreats me, etc. And what is the answer? Be patient. Remember, there is a severe chastisement for him in the hereafter. What good is that to her? He's beaten her black and blue in this world. And you're not offering a solution to her problems in this world, but you want her to wait until the hereafter. So you might as well say to her, well, tell him to kill you, because that will relieve you of getting beaten every day, and then you're in the hereafter, and then wait for him to come, and then present your case to Allah. No, all of it starts in this world, and you got to start addressing these problems in this world. I mean, that guy that I told you about, he will be punished, so to speak. Call it treatment, call it chastisement, whatever, in the hereafter. But it starts here. And as the example I gave you, the more you have damaged your soul, the more treatment you will require. The longer it will take, the more painful it will be. Like the example that I gave you of the foot that was injured and no one took any notice and did anything. So when we talk about Azaban Ali, remember, everything starts in this world. But don't pretend nothing's going to happen here, and when we get to the hereafter, we will see. It doesn't work that way. We've seen that, and I'll finish with this. Pakistan should have built lots of dams to store water for the years when the rain doesn't come, and also store water, or have ability to store water when there are floods, so they can hold some water and either avoid or reduce the intensity of flood. But they didn't. And now half of Pakistan is underwater. This is a consequence of our own actions. We say God has done it. Well, was God going to come down and build the dams? You knew you had to build dams, and you didn't do it. So now you're being punished for it. And God says in the Holy Quran that, you blame me, but it's the consequences of what you have yourself done. And you can't expect to do one thing and the result to be something different. And these things are played out in front of our eyes over and over again. We never sort of learn from these things. So with the request that because Pakistan is in the country and the people are in a pray, and also if you can spare any time or money, donate it to help those people. And with the prayer that whoever you are and wherever you may be, may Allah keep the whole of humanity safe and sound and free from harm. Assalamu alaikum, Khuda Hafiz, and goodbye.